When in doubt, press the button, say hello, see what happens. Hello, good evening, and welcome to Shelf Analysis, episode 21, according to the little thing that's right here beside me. 21st episode of a series that I started at the very beginning of this lockdown of when we all presumed we were going to be in this for maybe 3 weeks, 4 weeks. And now here we are for the foreseeable. And I will be talking to you about how Shelf Analysis is going to just change ever so slightly over the next few weeks. We've got some amazing guests lined up between now and the end of the month of May. Thank you to everybody who's been taking part so far. Things that you need to know about tonight. Sadly, Karina is reading something entirely different because the Read Irish Women Month is now over, but I'll tell you about that in a couple of minutes. I haven't said this anywhere else online, so I may as well do it now. This coming Sunday at 7 on RTE Radio 1 for the book show, we have Mark O'Connell talking about Notes from an Apocalypse, his excellent, extraordinary, and very timely new book. In which, amongst other things, he goes to parts of the world that he finds himself drawn to when he's looking at where the human race are going. Everything from the Chernobyl exclusion zone to New Zealand, where people like Peter Thiel are buying up huge tracts of land because this is where they think they will wait out any potential situation that may occur, through to Mars colonizers in Los Angeles. There's a bit of Elon Musk in it as well. And I do have a very brief chat with him about how all of that reflects on where we all are right now. So there's Mark doing that. Liz Nugent is on it as well, being interrogated. I always use that word every week, but it's a valid one. Interrogated by a book club in Tremor this coming weekend. And Liz tells us the story of the very first ever book event she did in a library, and it was in Tremor in that library, and how things didn't necessarily go according to plan. That is the book show. You'll be able to find it this coming Sunday at 7 on RTE Radio 1, but of course you'll be able to check it out if and when you feel the need to do so on podcast from this coming Friday. Now, what else have I got? Things that you need to know. Oh yeah, the virtual Hay Festival made their announcement today. I don't have a graphic for it here, but the Hay Festival is one of those things that I've always really wanted to go to physically in reality. I know that many of the people we've had on Shelf Analysis have. This year, everyone's going to get the chance to, because Hay has decided that it is going virtual because it is the only option for it this year. So if you want to have a look at the details at hayfestival.com, it also means they can pretty much have anybody they want from around the world. And there's a lot of that happening. They have a top-notch lineup. Anybody watching this from the Hay Festival, by the way, now that geographically me not being in the UK isn't really a problem to me not doing an event for you anymore, you know where I am. Come and have a chat with me. I've done a couple of these things over time. Have a look at the one I'm going to do tonight. It's just, call it a demo, if you will, if you fancy that kind of thing. hayfestival.com. I'm almost 100% sure it's their website. There was that moment today as well. I won't say which because I don't think they've announced it publicly, but I had one real physical event left for the year of 2020, and it was in August, and it was still there, and it was still holding on, and today it was cancelled. So I have no more physical events for the rest of the year. I mean, there'll be a lot more things that look like this. There'll be a lot more virtual things because that's the way we're all going to have to deal with stuff like this over the course of the next 6 months, 9 months, however long. But it was the last physical one. It was one I really wanted to do as well. It was one I really wanted to do in a place that I really love going to as well. So sad. I'm not going to tell you where it is though, because they may not have publicly announced all that kind of stuff. Karina, where are you? Karina, you see what Karina, our houseplant, is reading right now. Could be anything given the nature of the Read Irish Women Month is over. So, I mean, all bets are off, frankly, as to what Karina's reading. Karina's also in the kitchen tonight. Hello, Karina. How are you doing? Good? Nonplussed. You're in the kitchen where there's just there's a nice breeze blowing from it. It's okay, we're done. I don't want you to hyperventilate. There's a nice breeze coming from outside. That is Emma Smith's This is Shakespeare. I tend not to know a lot about the books Karina is reading. They're just foisted on me, and then I have to talk about them. This is one that we got in the house a while back, and it is Emma Smith talking about the plays of Shakespeare, which kind of nicely leads me along to, if you haven't seen any of the stuff that's happening online, theatre-wise, you should maybe have a look. I'm going to plug this very briefly before the Abbey Theatre have all of their Dear Ireland postcards that are all in kind of 4 big chunks there on the Abbey Theatre's website. I know we watched Frankenstein night before, the National Theatre of the UK's Frankenstein with Johnny Lee Miller and Benedict Cumberbatch. Great, really, really impressive. We watched it one way and not the other because the two actors would alternate the roles of Frankenstein and the monster on differing nights. I know that tomorrow night is Thursday. Yes, tomorrow night is Thursday. That they are putting up Antony and Cleopatra with Sophie Okonedo and Ralph Fiennes playing Antony and Cleopatra. That's the tie into Shakespeare. I knew there was one in the back of my head somewhere. And of course, the guys at Shakespeare's Globe in London have a bunch of their plays from the last few years all appearing online as well. If you fancy going in and have a look at their YouTube channel as well. Thank you, Karina. You can continue to study and go off and do whatever it is you're doing. Our guest, for the first one of the week this week, we didn't have a show on Monday because it was a bank holiday. I really like the idea because we've done a couple of these things before. And I'm really interested to see, more importantly, what her house looks like, which is the only real reason that I invited her on the program. And I want to have a bit of a poke around. She is the author of the wonderful When All Is Said, which many people in the Ricochet Book Club will know all about and have bought copies about. Anne Griffin is on the show. Hi, Anne.
Hello, everyone. It's very exciting, Rick.
Is it? That says a lot about where we all are right now. It does.
I know. It's how exciting my life is at the minute. But no, this is lovely. I love it. And I love seeing all the comments come up and everything. So it's really, really good. Your introduction was fantastic, by the way, Rick. Very professional.
It was. You'd think I'd done this. Well, thank you. Tell me a little bit about how things have been for you for the last maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks. It's always the first question we ask of authors who are taking part. How has it been going for you?
It's been going okay. It's been quite productive, which I know is a bit unusual to say, because I think there's few writers that they're struggling. And really, the reason why it's been very productive is because it's kind of desperation. I've been working on the second book, and there's been a real need for me to get moving on it. And basically, I got into a wonderful flow just at the beginning of February around it, and started to rewrite my second book completely. And then after 2 weeks of wonderful work, I went and fell off my bike on one very, very icy morning down here in Mullingar. And for an awful moment, they thought I'd fractured my hip, but I hadn't. I just done awful damage to the muscles in my back. So I was lying flat on my back in a lot of pain, but just needed to write, because I thought I'm in this flow for the first time really around this book. I felt like I was getting into the core of it, what it was about. So I wrote on the flat of my back, and then coronavirus hit. So I was all ready to...
I'm sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there. I'm going to have to... No. You are writing on the flat. How physically does it... Did you have the laptop mounted above you? Is there... Yeah. How is that going?
Well, if you can imagine, I'm lying flat now. So there's a pillow there. So I'm kind of writing like this. Okay, so I've got my laptop leaning up on my knees. Now that did cause a problem in my upper back then, because I got I think it was trapped nerve, I think, but I couldn't diagnose it because there were no physiotherapists anymore. There was nothing. I got to the physiotherapist once, thank God, just before they shut down, and they gave me some exercises. So I was writing in pain. I hope that doesn't show in the work, actually. Didn't think that.
It could seem absolutely fantastic, but you're just out of your head on painkillers. That's also possible.
No, I had to come off the painkillers because the painkillers were making me really ill. They were so strong. So they were wrecking my stomach. So I took off the painkillers. So I was in pain, riding away, and then coronavirus comes. So the quiet that I at least had in the house whilst in pain and writing on the flat of my back ended with my husband and son returning from their places of work and places of study. Yeah. And in they came, and I was thinking about it today, and I really felt that there were moments when I was quite like Thomas Shelby, in very bad humor when things are going very wrong. So there were moments when Mammy was going absolutely nuts from her bed with her crutches in her hand.
Mm-hmm.
So come here,
not good.
Peace. But so we got into this wonderful way of working. My son uses Junior Cert, very happy child, by the way.
That went down well in your house, yeah?
It was brilliant. I think I was more relieved than he was. Listen, can I tell you? I started the menopause about a year and a half ago, and I am such like because he's an only child, I'm obsessed with his life, basically. And I thought, oh God, no, the junior cert is coming. I have to go on to HRT. So I've been on HRT for a year just because my son was going to be doing the junior cert. And then coronavirus came, and I'm like, oh no, I don't want to do my HRT now. It's far.
Now you're addicted. Now you're too far down that particular road. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
I said I'd give HRT a year and I'd come off it in June. So I don't know what's going to happen now. But anyway, me and my HRT. What was I trying to say about literature and writing?
I'm not sure. But it's really interesting. I'm going to be honest with you. It's going really well so far. You were telling us how you kind of coronavirus hit, and then all of a sudden you kind of, your husband and your son have arrived home, right. And now your peace and quiet is gone.
So I had to sit them down and come up with a few rules of how we were going to work. And so we each got a room where we would work, and where we absolutely had to be quiet in my very creative hours, which are usually 9 to about 1 o'clock. And everybody's been very good since. So I have actually finished a draft of this novel that I'm happy with. Really happy with. And so my editor in the UK has had a read, and she's really happy with it. So now I am into the next phase of edits around that. So I'm very happy. So I've actually been one of those people who has written, but more out of desperation, needing to. As I was saying earlier to you, I'm not sure if I wasn't writing this book, how much work I will be doing at the minute. I might be, like other people, kind of finding it hard to concentrate on stuff, doing a lot of baking with my son, or I don't know, watching a lot of Netflix. But it's been really good. Oh, I saw somebody mention my talk, which is called Escaped Mum, which I thought was really ironic, given that no mum can escape at the minute. Ever, because
that seems to be Paula Courtney is the one who says she'd love to have your jumper to wear on her way to work, which is, can you recommend the designer? Can you what is it? Sorry, what does it say below it? It says Escaped Mum.
Don't tell anyone you saw me.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So no, I can't remember even where I got it, but I do love
it. Briefly, before we get on to the actual reason that we're here, I want to talk very briefly about When All Is Said. I want you to tell us a little bit about it, because I remember getting that first gorgeous, beautiful proof copy of it when it came in. Because sometimes proof copies, when they come in for obviously most people don't get these. They can be a little functional sometimes. They can be a little schlepped together, and they can be fine. But the one for yours was kind of a little thing of absolute beauty. Now the new cover, I think this is the new cover I have here. So that's the current one there. Tell us, just for those people who have no sense of the book, maybe haven't read it yet and have seen it maybe referenced in the book club, tell us a little bit about When All Is
Said. So this is the story of Maurice Hannigan, who is an 84-year-old, very successful Irish meat farmer, who sits to the bar of the Rainsford House Hotel on a significant night of his life, and he is there to drink 5 toasts to the 5 most important people in his life. And so we meet Tony, his brother, we meet Noreen, his sister-in-law, we meet Molly, his daughter, who unfortunately was stillborn, we meet Kevin, his son, and Sadie, his wife, who died 2 years prior to this night. And so through those stories, we were introduced to just who Maurice Hannigan is, and his roguishness, his cantankerousness, his narkiness with the world. But also we see a man who's quite vulnerable and is full of regret, and is lonely, and has lived a life of secrets. And so as the night unfolds, we begin to understand why it is we're sitting here at this moment.
Okay. Again, not just from me, but from many other people in the book club, it comes immensely highly recommended. I'm not going to tell you how great it is, Amy, because you know that already. How many tens of hundreds of thousands of copies has it sold now? It's bad. Do you know? Do you have any sense of that?
The UK put up recently that through its English-speaking territory, so the UK and Ireland and its various places, Singapore and stuff like that, it has sold over 160,000. So that was a couple of months back. And then the States, I think it was the hardback did about 18,000, which really surprised me, because it's very, I thought it would do nothing in the States. So they're really happy, and the paperback is just coming out there now, and it's done well in Germany, and it's in 17 well, it's coming into 17 foreign languages as the year goes on. There's more coming out, and it's coming out in Italy on the 20th of May. Two beautiful covers, really elegant, and then there will be Sweden toward the end of the year. So it's coming out slowly.
I was going to say something vaguely inappropriate, like definitely Italy needs something to take its mind off current contemporary situations at the moment, and maybe this is the perfect book for it. Look, the reason we are here is to pick 3 books from your bookshelves, which I think are over there to the left of you or my right, whichever. You've picked 3. The usual criteria are that it can be absolutely anything. There's no rules to this.
Okay.
What have you got? What are you going to start with? What's the first one?
Carol Shields, unless. Has anybody done this? I wonder.
No, not as of yet. No.
No, great. Carol Shields. So I don't know if people know Carol Shields, but she was a Canadian writer, but actually she wasn't born in Canada. But Canadian writer. And when I worked in Waterstone's Booksellers back in the 90s, she was huge. She was just coming out here, and she got shortlisted for the Booker. And I read everything: Happenstance, The Republic of Love. Oh, there's loads more. My memory is really bad. But this is the very last one that I read. It's her last one, and I read this only in the last couple of years. And so this is why I've chosen this one, was because it was her last one, and because I have a better memory of it. And because I'm hopeless with books. I forget the intrinsic story, but I remember how they made me feel. So in general, I wanted to talk about Carol Shields and how she makes me feel as a writer. And Unless is just, it's a beautiful, beautifully written story of a mother's struggle with her daughter, who basically drops out of the world. She's very successful in college, but one day she just disappears, and she ends up on the streets in Canada. I can't remember which town this is based in, but she has a sign called, she just carries this sign called Goodness. And she sits on the street. She's not collecting money. That's not what she's there for. It is like her protest to the world about who we've become in the world and what we've become in the world. Now, there is a trauma that has happened earlier in her life that causes this, but we don't find this out until quite near the end. But what I love about this is the main character is Rita Winters. She's the mother, and she's also a writer, and she's been a very successful writer, but of chick lit. Now, what's interesting here, and I love this for this, is she takes on that whole thing about chick lit and genres, and the way things have been marketed into particular, sections of, what we the reader. I know that as a bookseller, because I was a bookseller in Waterstones, and being able to section off books in that way was very helpful in selling books, because you just knew where people were. So chick lit was over here, sci-fi was over there. But there is something, and this debate rages about the way that chick lit, and I should stop using the term, but because it's used so well in here, has really denigrated or something the writers. And this is what Rita Winters is up against with her publisher, because what happens at the time of Nora, her daughter, dropping out of the world, she writes a completely different book than what she normally would, and her publisher just won't accept it, and they keep pushing her back into writing romance, and because into that box that they have put her into. So this is a really good look at women, not just in literature, but in society in general. And that is one of the things that her daughter is struggling with as well, her place as a woman in society. And so Carol Shields writes these really big issues, but in a very, very personal way that you can relate to and say, God, I know what that is. Or I can feel that. So Carol Shields, she died back in 2003, I think. And I mean, she's still widely read. But I just feel that, particularly unless, there was a movie made of it recently. Alan Gilson, that's right, an Irish writer and director, did a movie back in 2016 of this. And I haven't seen it myself. I couldn't I couldn't get to when it was being showed. It was being showed in Dublin. I couldn't get to it that night, but I've watched clips, and it's just it looks beautifully done. And the other thing was, I remember when I was reading this, I was in Tyrone Guthrie, beginning to work on the second novel that I'm working on now. So it felt appropriate that it would be a mess that I would talk about. But I'd love a Carol Shields revival. Not that there really needs to be. I think she's consistently read out there, but she deserves all of the accolades she's ever gotten, and all of the praise she's ever gotten.
I think one of the best things that happens through this is when people pick books that, as you said, are maybe either slightly underappreciated, or books that come from somewhere in the back of your bookshelf that aren't at the center of public consciousness right now. Those ones are sometimes the more interesting ones that we get picked out again. Okay, so that's Carol Shields. That's book number 1. What have you got for book number 2?
So, Ron McClarty. This is called Traveller. I don't know if people know Ron McClarty. So he wrote Traveller, The Memory of Running, and Art in America. So this came out back in 2007. Now, Ron McClarty is actually was an actor. He's many things. He only died this year. But he was in Law and Order and a few different things like that. But
was he one of those guys? You know, there's those guys. You see them in things like that, and you know their face.
Yes. So if you look him up, you're definitely going to know this guy's face. So he came to writing quite late, like myself. So another good reason to like him. And this book was the very first one that I read of his. I think this was the first book. Yeah, Traveller. And as you will see that the front. So it's a bit reminiscent of Stand By Me and Stranger Things, in fact, because the guys on the bikes, except there's no fight to this. And it is the story of these kids hanging out when they were 12. And an incident happens where one of them gets shot. They don't get killed, but they get shot. And it was a mystery, and they never understood why. But years later, you know, I don't know what age they are. They could be in their 50s or whatever. This girl who was shot dies, and they all come back for the funeral. And this is the story of finding out who they all are, really, and that relationship and how it's broken down and what has happened in their life, but essentially the solving of the mystery to what has happened. So he just is a fantastic writer. And after I'd finished my MA in creative writing in UCD, I couldn't read anything. For some reason, I was just on every book I started, I just couldn't read. And I put it down, and I went back to this one. I thought, well, I'm going to pick one off my shelf that I absolutely loved, and made me want to read everything by that person. And I went back to this, and I reread it, and I thought, this is just brilliant. This is so good. I'm writing to this author. And I love when people write to me now. And I never before had written to an author, but at that moment, when I found my love of reading again, not that I'd lost it, I was just unable to settle on one particular book, or so I decided I'd write to him. So the very first time I wrote to anyone, and he didn't write back. His wife wrote back and said, "Thank you so much for this, but Ron is very ill at the minute, but I will pass your message on to him." And she then sent me his final book, The Dropper. And so I thought, well, if ever I get my book published, I'm going to send it to them. And so the American guys wrote to him last year to see could they send on the book. And his wife said he's extremely ill. He won't be able to read it. And then I found out just recently that he had died. But just a wonderful, wonderful storyteller. So I go find Ron McClarty. Not many people would have read it. Okay.
And that's Ron McClarty, Traveller, book number 2. That's good. That fits into the first category. I like that very much as well. Final book, what's going to be?
I talked about this on the book show at Christmas, Threads of Life. And so it's non-fiction. And this is just beautifully written. Even fiction. This is terrible. The camera is really weird.
It's easily confused. Do the exact opposite to what you think you should be doing.
Okay. So, okay, no, I'll put it down.
Except for that bit. That's just too weird.
Threads of Life, it's called. And it's a non-fiction book. It's by a wonderful author called Claire Hunter. And she is a beautiful writer, a beautiful non-fiction writer. Some of her sentences had me with my mouth open thinking, this is just stunning. So this is the history of sewing and needlework. Now, I'm a big kind of, I love sewing. I don't myself. I'm one of these people. It's like, I like watching cookery programs, but I can't cook. Same thing.
Okay.
I like tonight, you know, the sewing bee is on at 9 o'clock on BBC, and that's what I'm going off to do, because I was worried this would interrupt my love.
Of course. I had to make sure that wasn't going to happen. Yeah, of course.
So this is the same kind of thing. I love history. I was a history, I did my degree in history. So any kind of history book that also brings in people's lives and people's loves, I'm done. I'm with them. Social history is wonderful. So this goes through needlework from, say, Mary Queen of Scots, to the mothers in Argentina, the mothers of the disappeared in Argentina, to World War I veterans who, suffering from post-traumatic stress disorder, found help and therapy through sewing. Then through modern day community work in certain communities, sewing. Oh God, I've forgotten the name of tapestries. There's a better word for that. Wonderful community initiatives around this. So it's how sewing has given voice to many people who didn't have one. So I just think this is a great read. It's a wonderful history book, and it is beautifully written, and it's come out in paperback now. I know I have the hardback, but please buy Claire's book because it's absolutely great. She's a wonderful Scottish lady.
Fantastic. Love it. Love three ideas totally out of left field. I think that they're great. I've got a couple of comments for you. Margaret Joyce Morrissey says, really enjoyed when all is said. Delighted to hear another book is on the way. Laura Birmingham says, I read The Memory of Running by Ron McClarty. It was brilliant. Story. Look out for the traveller.
Yes. Memory of Running is so moving. Here, can I show that one too? Sure. Memory of Running. Okay, let me get this right. Absolutely beautiful book. Gorgeous character.
Great cover. Love it.
Yeah, Susan Eade, lovely main character, gorgeous.
Brenda is on, says, you were great at the DLR Mountains to Sea Book Festival in 2019. Can't wait for the second book. My family were delighted with your name choice for Morris for When All Is Said.
Very good.
And that's almost it. Like, we're kind of out of time. And thank you for everybody for taking half an hour out. And obviously, I want to make sure it didn't clash with the sewing, spelling, cooking bee, whatever thing it is you have that's on later on. That the thing that's on television. Do we have any idea when? I mean, you're only in edit phase now at this stage in terms of the new book. Do you have any idea when that's going to make it out into the real world?
Well, I think the hope is 21, but Lord knows the way the world is going at the minute if that will happen. But that is certainly the hope. That's what I'm aiming for. Whether we get there or not, I'm not sure.
Yeah, because there's a lot of that knocking around at the moment. Anne Griffin, thanks a million for talking us to us. Stay safe, and I'll see you soon, okay? Thanks.
Great. Bye.
Thanks, Anne. That's it for tonight's shelf analysis. We will have another one for you tomorrow night, same time, 7 o'clock here in the Ricochet Book Club. If you want to check out any of the previous episodes, they are in announcements. Of course, if you're watching this on RTE Culture, hello. Click on the shelf analysis thing down at the bottom of this, and you'll find all of these on the YouTube channel as well. Details of that in all of my social media feeds. You'll see the YouTube channel for those people who aren't on Facebook and don't do this kind of thing. Tomorrow night is my birthday. And I'm sitting here with you guys doing an interview because, let's face it, there's not much else I can be doing in the world tomorrow night on my birthday. I do have something special for tomorrow night, though. I have one of the most famous Irish authors of the last 20 years, and it's the first time I've ever done an interview with this person. And I'll have them for you here tomorrow night at 7. Until then, take it easy. See you then.